Once again, a pleasant day to everyone, and welcome for another video presentation with regards to our subject. And for today, we are going to have here the general fingerprint rules, especially in locating the core and the delta. So let us try to talk first on the rules in core location. So first rule in here, it says that the core is placed upon or within the innermost sufficient recurve. Okay, so let's try to have here a simple illustration or a simple loop illustration of a loop pattern. Okay, so we have here. All right, so this is a loop, a basic illustration of a loop pattern. So let's try to discuss here the rule. So it says here again, the core is placed upon or within the innermost sufficient recurve. So let's try to locate where is the innermost sufficient recurve in this loop pattern. So it's said to be this one, okay? This is the outermost. So let's try to find out where is the innermost. So the innermost pattern, the innermost sufficient recurve is in this part. Okay. So uh, as you can see, this is the one that is the innermost in here. So let's try to have here, let's go back on our discussion. Let's try to remember what was said to be as the sufficient recurve. Ano nga ba yung sinasabi natin na sufficient recurve? Okay, so you can find the sufficient recurve by locating also the shoulder of the loop. Okay, shoulder of the ridge. So which is the shoulder in here? So it is in this part. Okay, so that is where the this is where the area, this is where the ridge, okay, starts to curve back to where it starts from. Okay, and yes, as we can see in here, where is the sufficient recurve? So the sufficient recurve is this one, right? So with that, as mentioned in here, the core is located. The core is placed upon or within the innermost sufficient recurve. So we can say that the core is in this area. Okay, so that is just the basic example or just a basic illustration on showing the rule number one. Okay, especially in a loop pattern. So next in here is rule number two. So it says in here, when the innermost sufficient recurve contains no ending ridge, okay, or rod rising as high as the shoulder of the loop, the core is placed on the shoulder of the loop farther from the delta. Okay, so let us try to make an illustration again. Okay, so again, let's try to make simple loop again here, loop pattern. And with that, okay, let's try to find where is the okay, where is the core in here. Okay, so let's say, or let's try to find out the core in here. So when the innermost, okay, so it says in here, when the innermost sufficient recurve contains no ending ridge, okay, or rod, okay, so let's put some rod in here. Rod rising as high as the shoulder of the loop. Okay, so again, let's locate the shoulder of the loop in here. So the shoulder is this area. Okay, and with that, the core is placed, as high as the shoulder of the loop. Okay, the core is placed on the shoulder of the loop farther from the delta. So let's say we have here two rods, okay, inside the innermost ridge. Okay, and with that, as you can see, they were not able to reach as high or rise as high as the shoulder of the loop. So, hindi man lang sila umabot dito. So, ano yung sabi sa rule number 2? Kung hindi man yan aabot or wala man lang umabot sa mga rods na ito as high as the shoulder, then the core is placed on the shoulder of the loop farther from the delta. So, dalawa yung shoulder dyan. So, anong pipiliin natin? Is it this one or this one? So, the delta, let's say the delta is found in here. Okay? The delta is here. Then, the core is placed on this shoulder. Okay? So, doon po or yan po yung sinasabi ng rule number 2 natin. Okay? So, number 3, it says here also that when the innermost sufficient recurve contains an uneven number of rods. Okay, so let's say meron tayo dito the innermost ridge again, and it contains uneven. So, uneven, it means it could be 3, 5, okay, or in other words, odd numbers. So, let's say there are 3 rods in here, okay, or bars on inside this, inside the recurving ridge, okay, or the innermost recurving ridge. So with that, and they're as high, okay, an even number of rods as high as the shoulders. So the shoulder is in here, and they were able to reach, okay, let's say that is the illustration in here. Okay, and the core is placed upon the end of the center of the rod, whether it touches the looping ridge or not. Okay, so as on the rule, okay, as we can see here, so let's say it's a loop pattern again. And with that, as you can see, there are 3 bars, or in other words, there are an even number of rods who were able to rise as high as the shoulder of the loop, or shoulder of the region here. So with that, the rule says the core is placed upon the end of the center of the rod. Okay, so we are going to place the core in here. It's the one that is on the center. So the core is located in here. Okay, so uh, that is what we are going to have here, or that is what we are going to do when in situation that there are an even number of rods. Okay, and rule number 4 naman. Let's try to have here rule number 4. When the innermost sufficient recurve contains an even number naman. So, paano kapag ang bilang ng rods ay 2, 4, 6, 8 or even numbers? So, we are going to have here again an illustration. Let's try to have here 4, okay? 4 rods or 4 bars. Okay, so it's again a loop pattern, or a simple illustration of a loop pattern. Okay, and with that, as high as the shoulders of said recurving ridge is placed upon, or it says in here, even, again, I'll read it once again for us not to be confused. So again, when the innermost sufficient recurve contains an even number of rods rising as high as the shoulders of said recurving ridge is placed upon the end of the farther one of the 2 center rods. Okay, the 2 rods being treated as though they were connected by a recurving ridge. So this time we are going to use an imaginary line. Okay, so there are 4. So kanina, kung uneven sana yan, so madali na lang. Okay, ang sentro yung kukunin natin na core. However, there is no, we can find, or there's no, or in the center, you can see 2 bars, right? So with that, let's try to make an imaginary line like connecting the 2 uh, bars in here, making a recurving ridge, or sufficient recurve. Okay, or this is a single ridge. So with that, let's try to make here also another one. Okay, and with that, we are going to choose on the rule. We are going to choose. Okay, it says here the core is placed upon the end of the farther one of the 2 center rods. Or in other words, the core is said to be located in here. Okay? So it's not the nearest one from the delta, but it should be the farther one from the delta. Again, going back to rule number 2. Okay? So with that, that is how we are going to have here rule number 2. So now, next we have here interlocking loops. So there are also, let's say, at the inner part of the pattern, there are interlocking loops. Okay, so the let's say it's in the center. Okay, so this is it is an interlocking loop. So with that, as you can see, they are interlocking. So what is the, how are we going to determine, okay, the core with in that? So as you can see in the illustration, we have here they are going to make, or we are going to make an imaginary line connecting the two, again, the two, just like what we did on the rods a while ago, the even number of rods. So we are going to make an imaginary line like connecting them, and just like the other one a while ago, or the previous rule, okay, we are going to choose the one that is farther from the delta, or treating them just like a rod. Okay? And paano naman kapag tumama sa sentro? Then we are going to locate, or we are going to consider that as the core of the pattern. Okay? So that is how we are going to have here, or how we are going to locate the core of interlocking loops. Okay? So next in here is the delta location, or locating the delta also. But first, let us try to have here some of the forms of delta. So first of all, as you can see, we have here bifurcation. So delta might be in a form of a bifurcation, or in a Y-shaped form, or Y-shaped formation. Okay, or in an abrupt ending ridge. Abrupt ending ridge. I mean, okay, so the delta might be this part. Okay, so abrupt ending ridge, or this might be the, this will be our delta. Okay, so, or if not, it could be a dot, or delta of the pattern might be a short ridge, just a short ridge. So abrupt ending ridge, a little bit longer than the short ridge. And with that, a converging ridge. So two ridges forming or meeting in a certain point, okay, or the meeting point of a certain two ridges. And with that, a point of the first recurving ridge located nearest to the center. So let's say this is the first, or the first recurving ridge, okay, and this is the nearest to the center or the core. Then this might be the, or this could be the delta, okay, and this is the divergence, or it should be in front of the divergence of the pattern. Okay, so in front of the divergence of the type lines, and this is the first recurving ridge, then we can consider this as the delta. Okay, but further, we are going to have here more on the rulings. Let's try to have here the rules between governing the choice between two or more possible deltas. So, kung iisa lang yung nakikita nyo sa may diverging ridges, isa lang na formation, then hindi na tayo mahihirapang mamili kung ano ba yung delta doon. So, paano naman kapag maraming formations yung nakikita natin uh, sa may part ng ating ano to, yung divergence. Okay? So with that, we are going to have here the rule number 1. So it says here the delta may not be located at the bifurcation, which does not remain towards the core. So let's say in this pattern, we have here again a loop. Okay? And then it's the bifurcation in here. Okay, so let's say this is our let's make a better illustration here. Okay, so let's say this one. Okay, and then we were able to create here, okay, a certain loop pattern. Okay, so let's say this is the divergence. Okay, and then there is certain, okay, so there are bifurcations in here, and there is also on this part. Okay, so let's say ganyan po yung nakikita natin. So dalawang bifurcations or forms of deltas yung nakikita natin. So ang sabi sa rule number 1, kung ganito dalawa ang nakikita natin, then we are going to choose the one that is facing towards, or open towards the core. Okay, so ano ba dito yung tutok sa core. So let's say the core is found in here. The core is here. So ano yung pipiliin natin na delta? So the delta would be this bifurcation. Okay? So it's not this one because it's not facing towards the delta, I mean towards the core. So that's why we are going to choose this part. Okay, so that is how we are going to apply rule number 1. Okay, next in here is when there is a choice between a bifurcation and another type of delta equally close to the point of divergence of two type lines, the bifurcation is selected. So let's say again, in the point of divergence, we can see, okay, we can see, medyo pangit yung drawing natin. So, palitan natin. So, let's say again, in this certain loop pattern, okay, and with that, we have here the divergence. Okay, and let's say there are lots of delta formation in here. So let's say there's a short ridge at that. Okay, and let's say there's a bifurcation in here. Okay, and there's an abrupt ridge in here. Okay, and with that we are going to have here, or an island I should say, I mean a short ridge, and with that there are three choices that we are going to look on here. So ano yung pipiliin natin? Having rule number 2, kapag napakaraming choices dyan, okay, it's either we are going to disregard the other formations, and instead we are going to choose the bifurcation so long as they are equally close to the point of divergence. Saan po ba yung point of divergence? So these are the diverging ridge, okay, and this would be our type lines also because this is the first. This is considered to be the first ridge, okay, first recurving ridge, or first ridges, okay, that we can the innermost ridge is the one that we are going to choose, okay, as a type line. Okay, it's not the outer one. Okay, so let's say there's still another ridge in here, so ang pipiliin po natin is yung innermost. Okay, so again, the point of divergence is in here. Okay, so let's make an imaginary line. So they are equally close. Okay, close yung mga ito. They are equally close to the point of divergence. So with that, we are going to still consider them, all of them, but overall the ones that should be chosen or yung pipiliin talaga is yung dapat bifurcation. Okay, so this is the delta, the bifurcation. Okay, but if they are not equally close to the point of divergence, so this, let's say the bifurcation is in here. Okay, so with that we are going to not to choose the bifurcation that is in here, but we are going instead to choose what is in here. All right, so anyway, we have here also rule number 3 to further have explanation on the other rules. So number 3, it says here, when there is a series of bifurcation opening towards the core at the point of divergence of the two type lines, the bifurcation nearest to the core is chosen as the delta. So again, let's say I have here, when there is a series of bifurcation. So let's say there is this is again another pattern. Okay, and then we have here series of bifurcation. Okay, so we have here series of bifurcation. Okay, so y-shaped ridges. So let's say here, excuse me, and so with that, what are we going to choose? So let's say there are three bifurcations in here. So there are three bifurcations at the point of divergence. So what are we going to choose? Okay, we are going to choose the bifurcation nearest to the core is chosen as the delta. So let's say the core is in here. So which is the nearest to the core? Which bifurcation is nearest to the core? Is it A, B bifurcation, or C bifurcation? So the answer is letter C, or C bifurcation would be the one that will be choose as the delta. Okay, so take note, ang piliin po natin yung malapit sa malapit sa core. Okay, so dito yung core natin. So again, ang pipiliin na bifurcation kapag maraming bifurcations dyan, then syempre yung pinakamalapit sa core. Okay, so don't forget that, class. Moving on, we have here rule number 4 in delta location. Okay, so with that, it says in here that the delta may not be located in the middle of the ridge, running between the type lines toward the core. Okay, but at the nearest end only. The location of the delta depends entirely upon the point of origin of the ridge between the type lines towards the core. Okay, so let's say we have here again another illustration or another simple loop illustration. Okay, so let's say this is again the point of divergence. Let's say the point of divergence is in here. Okay, they are facing each other in here, or the two ridges facing each other, and with that, this is the point of divergence. So let's say there is a ridge running between or in the middle of the type line. So let's say we have here, okay, we have here a short ridge or a ridge running between the type lines. So as we have said, abrupt ridge, okay, or a ridge could be, or a short ridge could be one of the delta formation. So with that, ano yung pipiliin or paano natin ipuposition yung delta? Or anong point ang pipiliin natin as the delta of the pattern? Okay, so let's say we have here a certain, uh, let's say this is ridge 1 and this is, ridge ending 1 and then we have here ridge ending 2. So ano yung pipiliin natin? Si ridge ending 2 or si ridge ending 1? So with that, this is the point of divergence. So with that, as mentioned sa rule natin, it says in here that the one that should be chosen is the nearest, okay, at it should be the nearest end, okay, the one that is nearer to the point of divergence. This is or what we are going to make use as the delta of the pattern. So, asan dito ang mas malapit? Si 1, ridge ending 1, or ridge ending 2? So, the nearer one is basically ridge ending 2. So, this is what we will be using as the delta of the pattern. Okay, and then with that, we have here rule. Now, let us have here rule number 5. Okay, so let's say again, there is a certain loop pattern in here. So, anong gagawin natin ulit? Okay. Let's make use of this as a simple illustration for further explanation. Explaining what is rule number 5. Okay, so let's say there is and let's say this is the point of divergence. Okay, so same situation with just like with the rule number 4. Okay, so let's say the point of divergence is in here and there is a single ridge. Okay, and this is the possible and this is where we can find the delta. Okay, so anyway, let us have here for rule number 5. If the ridge enters the pattern area from the point below the divergent the type lines, okay, the delta must be located at the end nearer to the core. Okay, so again, the type lines is this part. Okay, nasabi natin kanina na ang type lines, they are the ones that are the innermost ridge surrounding the pattern area or surrounding the yes, the pattern area. So with that, the type lines again, and we have here the divergent line. Divergent point of divergence. Okay? So ano yung pipiliin daw natin? So let's say ang core ay nandito. Okay? So, kanina, yung nangyari is, or in rule number 4, okay, it does not exceed or it does not reach almost the pattern area. But as you can see in here, halos umabot na siya sa pattern area. Okay, lagpas na siya. So, ano yung gagawin natin? So, ganun din ba same ba sa ruling ng number 4? Ang pipiliin ay yung mas malapit sa point of divergence pa rin ba? Dito? Okay? So, hindi po yon yung susundin na natin. It's rule number 5 kapag lumagpas na sa pattern area. Umabot na sa pattern area yung ridge. So, ang pipiliin po ay yung nearer to the core this time. So, let's say the core is in here. So, it's not ridge number 2 ang pipiliin, but ridge number 1 will be chosen. So, this is the delta. Okay? So, it's nearer to the core and this is the delta. Okay? So, yan po yung pagkakaiba ng ng rule number 4 natin sa rule number 5. Okay? So with that, we are going to have here more, or we are going to have the patterns or basic patterns on our next videos. So as of now, kindly kindly if you have a question, you can just type it on our comment section again. Right? So see you on our next synchronous, or see you on our synchronous session, everyone.